All right, question has been asked. Is a military surplus market like a thing of the past? And also, a great concern has come up of how the prices have risen on old military surplus rifles to some, pretty unbelievable amounts. So let's start with the basic premise, okay? And what's difficult, why it's complicated to address this is, are you a person that just buys military surplus guns because they're inexpensive, and usually when they're sold with a bunch of older ammunition in large quantities, which is inexpensive. And it's kind of a fun hobby. Don't break the bank, and you go out and fool with it and maybe study up on the different models. Or are you actually a collector or an advanced collector? Okay? And what I mean by advanced collector is the amount of money you spend on each item in your collection. That's where they use a polite term, advanced collector. So a lot of people are beginners or are new. And I remember back when I was, back in the 70s when I was a teenager, you used to pick up old military weapons pretty reasonably. But even then, because in 1968, they kind of cut off the importation of a lot of guns. And be it either low-priced guns like the Stars, they had trouble importing them because of the change in the laws. And also, a lot of the military guns were kept out. So when I was buying guns like this, these Japanese guns and that, I was just finding them in gun shops or, yard sales or flea markets, somebody selling used guns. The laws weren't that strict for like rifles and that. You'd always find them somewhere, okay? And they didn't cost a lot of money. Nobody really marked them up. And there were people that did collect them, okay? But it wasn't as prevalent as it was. There was no internet, there was no nothing. If a local shop or a regional gun show didn't have anything like that, then you didn't find it. It's plain and simple, at any price. So when the laws changed in the 80s and anything made prior to 1946 or 45 was considered, a curio and relic. That's what it was. They made them curio and relics. So, and again, this is where the politics comes in. The government allowed that and changed the law to allow different countries to sell their old obsolete weapons, which were generally all bolt action, maybe some semi-automatic rifles, to generate money and shift money to them. And probably because certain governments and countries are favored by the United States government, kind of like Italy, that's why you see these last few shipments come in from those countries. So surplus buying is when they have a ton of guns, a ton of ammo sometimes not, and they have so many of them, they have so many thousands of them that they just want to sell them quick, so the price doesn't go up. And like I showed in the other video, as the supply is deleted and you get to the bottom, then you see the price start to go up because there's interest. And now with social media, the internet, there are collectors pages, collectors forums, groups on Facebook, MeWe. YouTube is huge, and Google and all the videos you got. You could go and punch in any of these. Swedish Mausers, Japanese Type 99, find all kinds of videos, either about the history, demonstrating, shooting, disassembling. All of it's right there. So it's popular. So strange things happen. The mechanics of it is once all of it dries out, like you will never see anybody bringing in a shipment of Japanese rifles. They did a while back in any places that they were at mostly the Type 39s, and they're gone. Okay, once they're gone, that's it. There are no more. Swedish Mausers, unknown. I know they brought a lot in the 80s, and over the years they've been bringing little batches of them in from here and there, but really in the past few years you haven't seen them. Same thing with the Swiss rifles. Okay, there were a lot of them around. They were about $300, all the different models, and they had shipments. And now these shipments, unless they've been hiding in a warehouse or forgotten or something, you're seeing that they're not coming in anymore. Henceforth, they're nice guns. People like them. The price goes up. People want one. People want. They see the videos. They want one. They want to get them. Okay. So that's what you're working against. And generally, you know, to say when they were selling them, say for X amount of dollars. Say there was a time they were selling these for $200. Well, then it kind of ran out, and time went on, and then you'd see them $300, $400. And now these Swedish Mausers, I see them going in condition like this, you know, $500, $600. It's, and this is what people are saying, you know, it's kind of taking the fun out of the hobby. All right. But then again, that's just the circumstances behind this. So now you become a collector. Now I just sat 2 days through an online auction. It was in, I think, Colorado. And the prices I seen things go for were astronomical. A French Mosin 36 rifle, which at one time they were like $65, went for $600. These rifles here, depending on that, you know, like I said, they're going $500, $600 a piece. Type 99s, when I thought $300 for a nice early example like this one, okay, now you're looking at $600. Okay, it kind of warrants, you know, I don't understand it, but here's the thing. Auctions are tough because I really believe there's a no reserve auction. This is what it was, but they had similar guns, you know, multiple ones, like there was a bunch of 96s in there, and they all kind of go, irregardless of the condition in that, for a certain amount of money. They don't go below. And what he's doing is he's got feeds coming in. I was on Proxy Bid, there's Mr. Bid, and something else. So he's got all these feeds coming in from these different sites. And then you'll see, like on Proxy Bid, say the bid on this rifle was $300. Okay, and I put $325. So then what they'll do is once they start the auction, and it's live online, it all will feed in, and then next thing you know it's at $450, $500, and then they start going from there. Okay, but I did notice nothing went at no price break. Okay, nothing went below, and of course the auctioneer, that 15–18% he charges, that's how he's making money. Okay, so the higher these things sell for, the more he makes. So that's it. So that's kind of how it works. But I seen several things on that auction. I seen a World War II style sniper, Springfield 03, with the long scope like they had back in the 40s, the Ural scope, go for $9,000. I seen a broom handle Mauser with the shoulder holster, the leather rig and all that, and you know, from them pictures you can't really tell how authentic it is. I seen one of them go, I think that was $7,000 or $8,000. Lugers are about $2,000 depending on that. They had some varying ones, but I didn't see one Luger go for like less than $900 or something. It was a non-military one, or one, they had one, there were parts missing. And I think the one with the parts missing went for 800 bucks. So it's crazy. So everyone goes, is it going to get better? Now I know a lot of sites, people talk and say, well, when's the price going to come back down? When are they going to become reasonable? And there's a couple other channels they covered it, and people suggested, well, just don't pay the high price. They'll have to sit on it, and the price will come down. Okay, unfortunately, and from what I'm seeing, that's not quite true. They had ammunition there. They had a damn tin of that 7.62 by 54R. I used to have 4 or 5 of them. I forget what I paid for the whole case. It'd be 2 of them tins. Might have been $120, $130. All I remember is the little packs of 20. When you figured out what the shipping, it was either $4 or $55. Okay, and I seen one of those tins go for $420, and then you figure there's 15% on top of it, and sales tax. Now, no matter where you go, that's another thing that kills you. All these high prices, if you buy something online through an auction house or on the gun broker, which is an auction, you're charged sales tax on top of it. So if you're dropping $400 or $500, depending on what you state you live in, I think mine's like 7, almost 8%. I know I sold something to somebody in Texas, it's 10.5%. So you could be paying some money in sales tax. So I don't know. But when we look at the different guns, like I said, there's different reasons. And another thing I noticed, like these Swedish Mausers, because they are accurate guns, they're well-made guns, they're made a little bit better than a lot of the different Mausers, and they did for years. The Swedes put high-quality steel in these guns, and they're quite accurate, and they shoot well. That's why people want them. Japanese weapons, they're okay. They're all pretty generic and the same. There's nothing really special or unusual about them unless you get like a paratrooper takedown or some rare variation. They're pretty common. But to drive the price up to $600, I guess it's just because people want a World War II rifle. I don't even discuss KR-98s because they're all well over $1,000, I guess now, which is insane, and they're a pretty common gun. There are a lot of them around. But then again, well, let's talk about a few other types here. Okay, we have this Russian Mosin 91. This one's a particular one, Westinghouse. There was Westinghouse Remingtons, the French made some, and then of course there were all the Russian made ones that the Finns went refurbished and used. And they call them Finn captures, but really not. I did a study on it, and what they did is after World War I, the Finnish went around and bought post-war, and they adopted this gun to be their rifle. Okay, but that's another story. But these things, when you had the Mosins at $100 with all the accessories 5, 6 years ago, the big heyday of that, a bunch of these guns just popped up, and they're all over. I find them at gun shows, different gun shops. Some guy was wandering around trying to sell them. I don't know where they came from or when they came into the country. I'm not quite sure, but they were around. And you could pick them up. They wanted a little more for them because they were older, $125 or something. And I took a chance and bought several of them. These things now, when you find them, any of the variations, finish marked or not, they go quite for like $600, $700. The Mosin Nagants, like the World War II round receiver ones, they go about $350. The Carbines bring $400 or $500, either the M44 or the one with the folding bayonet. Carbines still go for a little more, and they're kind of common guns, but the price has gone up. The days of the $100 Mosin are long gone. Now this other gun here, this Vetterli, this is an interesting gun. Other than Royal Tigers brought some of these in recently, and I wouldn't buy anything from them, but these guns were around for a while. I remember them. You know, they used to make furniture, lamps and stuff out of them, weld them shut. The emergency conversion in 6.5 Carcano, you didn't really want to shoot them. I remember when they were around when I was a teenager, but I never bought one because you couldn't shoot it, and I didn't want a gun you couldn't shoot. But if you use your head, you can come up with a way of actually shooting these. They are around, they're a common gun, and if you want to get started collecting, you know, and the thing is, yes, you have to be careful when you shoot these. You have to have hand-loaded ammo. You're not going to get stuff off the shelf or use military rounds. You're going to end up screwing the gun up, right? Maybe hurting yourself. But you can get these, going rate on these is $350. You can find these old Vetterli Carcano style things here around. It might be something to start collecting something like this, but I know a lot of people want to buy the gun, go out and shoot it, okay? But it's something to keep in mind before they start getting too expensive. A couple more examples of some interesting guns. The Gewehr 88, okay, this particular one is actually an original one, okay? Has matching numbers, it's correct, white receiver, it's never been screwed with. This is an original version. It's much more valuable than most of the common Turk ones you'll find. And at one point they brought a ton of these things in. They were in piss poor condition with bolt heads missing, and so people have built a lot of 88 mismatched guns. And this is another thing I'd like to discuss in videos: condition, grade, and knowing what is original and rare, because the price would be higher. Gewehr 88's, the generic ones with all the Turkish markings, been refinished, reworked, mismatched. They used to go for a few $100 to $300. You know, I'm going back, say, 15 years. I did a thing where I was gathering a bunch of these to do my work. Now, any of them in any condition go for much more than that. More like, I've seen them going $500 or so for them. So that's another one. Another one here is the little M95 carbines. They brought a bunch of these in from Bulgaria or somewhere where they still used them until the 80s. I think you can get them for $50, $60 a piece at one time. In the auction, I've seen these come up to $300. And it used to be the long rifles, which those are harder to find. Okay, they brought a ton of these little carbines, and a lot of these carbines were long rifles cut down before World War II or afterwards. The long rifles, it's 10, 15 years ago, were going for about $400 on average, 3 to 4, 3.5 to 4. And if the carbines, which are more common, are going for $3, then that means the long rifle's got to be into the $500, $600 range. Okay, and there really isn't any large numbers of these guns coming into the country. You know, when they were dumped on the market, that's it. And then what's floating around, now you got to kind of negotiate a price one way or the other. And let's not forget the Carcano. Now, we were inundated with these, and they were all carbine models, as all the Italians held out. Royal Tiger brought some in, but the condition is questionable. You can still find these. Most of the TS carbines are sold out. They still have cavalry carbines, I know, at DK Firearms and Century. Still have them, and they're about $200. Now, I did see an ad and got an email from Royal Tiger that they had cavalry carbines on a special sale, $199, and they say they are the Italian ones. Whether he went and got a batch to sell, I don't know. Be cautious, but they still can be had for about 200 bucks. Probably the bottom of the barrel. They might be a little on the beat up side, but they're still around. I suggest if you're interested, get one now before they're gone. And what has happened is now people are interested and wish to collect different variations of the Carcano, and no one has imported long rifles for a very long time. Okay, so there hasn't been anything recently coming in terms of long rifles, be it the 91 or the 91, 41 or 42. That has driven the price of those up into the $400 range, if not more, because people would like to have the long version, and you have to go find it. And when they come up in that auction I was fooling around with, they did go for about 4.5 to 5, a couple ones that they had. So that's something to bear in mind. Then you got something here like this Vetterli. Now the Vetterli, been around a long time. I don't think anybody's brought any of these things into the country for years. The reason these guns kind of languish is you'll find them anywhere from mint condition to pretty beat up. They came in an awful long time ago, and because nobody made the rimfire ammo since 1928, they didn't have a lot of interest other than a conversation piece or something to hang on a wall. But now, because it's not that difficult to convert them to centerfire, and if you're handy enough, you can make ammunition to shoot these. Now there's more interest in them, people like them, and something nice like this, kind of like an excellent plus condition with an outstanding bore. You will find them with nasty bores, okay? But something like this going for 4.5, if not more now. So the value of these has gone up, and the interest in them has gone up, where they were one of them pieces like that Italian Vetterli in the 6.5 conversion. Nobody touched them with a 10-foot pole, and they just hung around forever. But now people are out there shooting them, and interest is picked up, so did the price. Alright, now we're going to talk about guns in a whole different category. The guns I have on the table here are all mill surplus. They haven't been imported into this country for eons, and they're a whole different class of rifle. Okay, you really have to know what you're doing when you deal with this. Okay, this is an Italian Carcano needle fire conversion of a musket. Okay, any decent needle fire gun, beat up ones like go with the Dryses, those are around, they're tough to find. When it comes to needle fires, there's 3 you're going to find. Most common is the French Chassepot. You can still find some of them in halfway decent shape for about an $600 to $800 mark. Really mint ones will go over $1,000. That price is going up because people are learning how to make the ammo and shoot them. Next is the Dryses. I've seen some that were in like relic condition and they go for about $1,500. There were some good examples I was interested in getting in some auctions, but once it got up to the $3,000 thing, I was trying to go for a nice one, but when it got up to $3,000 and then somebody was jumping up $3,200, $3,400, I had to back out. Okay, and then the one that is not that common is the Italian Carcano conversions. Okay, actually this bolt, Carcano designed this bolt for the conversion. These guns here are harder to find than any other needle fires. I really don't know a lot about them, but when they come up for sale, I was fortunate to get this one. This one's in fairly nice shape with a mint board. You know, the needles broke, but I got this for about 2,000 even. Okay, price tag that's on here for whoever had this in the model is $3,000. I've seen people have some that were in a little bit worse shape, had them for 1,500, and somebody bought them from the guy, and then they got them for 2,500, just marking them up. But these are a hard to find gun. You're not going to run across these things that often. And really, it could be years before you even see one of these come up for auction at any price. So this is a totally different level of collecting. And there's also this little interesting Austrian conversion that I got. And this was a gamble. This thing here, nobody knew what it was. It's a little carbine. It was a musket, you know, it was a black powder muzzle loader. And it was converted to a cartridge gun in between, before, you know, in that time period in the 1860s. Nobody knew what this gun was. The guy that found it probably paid somebody $50 for it. Had it on the gun broker, and this is where you gamble and take a risk. Okay, nobody, he went to all these forums asking what it is. Nobody knew what the hell it was. And when it come up for auction, several people were hitting on it. I ended up with it for about 8. And come to find out, this is one of 100 prototypes that were made, okay, for government trials. And this has a serial number of 99 on it, okay? And there's not much information. The information I got from someone in Austria, I sent them photographs of it. And it is a 58 centerfire, which that caliber is quite unusual. It's not a, I forget what the one they adopted is a rimfire, and it's not a 58 caliber. I think it's a 40, 42 or 46 caliber. So this is a highly unusual gun, very rare. There were only 100 of them. How many survived or are left, I don't know. But it was a gamble, and I made out. Okay, because you're not going to find one of these, and the actual value of this gun, well, you know, how bad you want it, okay? And then we got even some of the Civil War style guns, these little Austrian chamber carbines. These were surplus guns, Civil War surplus. They bought these, they were converted from 2 blocks into these little guns, like a 71 caliber or something. But I've hammered a round ball down this and fired it, and it works fairly well. There was a bunch of these came up in an auction, and they range anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200. You know, and they're a pretty neat little gun. And I do shoot this, so that's something else. So when you guys ask about it, are the prices ever going to come down? No. Are there going to be more guns coming in? Chances are likely no. And a lot of times when little pockets of these guns are found, like old Spanish Mausers, they're so shot out and in such poor condition, they're not even worth buying. Okay, I've seen a lot of them. There was a batch of Spanish 93s that come in, and they had them at Cabela's. They're all re-blued and everything, but the bores were gone on all of them. And they wanted like $350, $400 for them. They're not worth it. Okay, you have to look at it. Is it worth it to you? And they're not going to come down in price. Very rarely, if ever again, will you see anything like this last Carcano thing. So the only choice you have to have is you must make a decision for yourself. Is this a hobby you want to get into? It's going to be quite expensive. And a lot of us people have done this for a while, said, I really wouldn't want to be a new guy trying to do this because the prices are so high. it's impossible for a younger person to get a decent start when you know things are in the $600, $700, $800 price range. You know, when they should be in the $200 to $300 price range. You know, compared for inflation and over time. But I don't know. And the thing is, people are buying these guns. I go to the gun shows, I don't find any older guns around or mill surplus. The guys that deal in it don't have a lot out there, and they've told me that they can't find it because everybody wants an exorbitant price. You know, they can't pull this crap showing up and buying a bunch of this stuff for $50, $60 and marking it up $300, $400. People want to get paid for what they have. And a lot of people aren't parting with it also. So, I don't know. You have to decide. Then you have to become a more serious collector. You have to be aware of what you're buying, if it's worth buying it all. Okay? You have to study. You have to make the call yourself. And then again, it comes down to the same thing. You know, would you want some unusual gun like this and spend thousands on it? Some people wouldn't do it whatsoever. Okay? Do you want to pay $700 for a 96 Mauser? Okay? Somebody is, I believe. So, or paying $600 for Type 99 Arasaka. Okay? People are doing it, so it's kind of a tough call. There are ways of doing it and looking for guns. You're not going to find them the simple way of just ordering them in that. You're going to have to look, you're going to have to search, you're going to have to kind of gauge if the value is there in the gun on condition and desirability, and you know, if you want to spend that much. So a lot to do. But if interested, I may make some videos advising you, because I believe a lot of people get into this hobby and they miss certain points like grade, condition, rarity. Some people collect guns from a certain time period. Most popular is World War II. A lot of guys tell me I'm looking for World War II guns. A lot of people are interested in them. Henceforth the demand, and that's why the price is going up. All the Mausers and everything, they were quite common. Anything the Germans had is astronomical. Okay, it's insane because everybody wants a KR-98, a Luger, a P-38 or something from the wartime period. Okay, and even the post-war P-38s and stuff are going for $600 now. You know, it's where they were like a $325 gun you can buy P1s for at one time. So that's kind of the long and short of it, and about all the information I can kind of put out there and explain it the best I can. And like I said, it's going to have to be a personal choice. You know, prices are not going to come down. A lot of people say, well, when all these older people die off and their collections come out, well, unless you're standing there with cash in pocket buying up people's estates, it's going to end up going to different dealers and that, and they're not going to let the stuff go for, you know, a couple $100. That's what they do for a living, you know. That's why kind of thinking that way is unrealistic. But I don't know. That's my take on it. I may do more work on it. I may make a video advising you how to buy, because a lot of people ask me, where do you buy these guns from? Well, I beat the bush. I look around, auctions, gun shops, gun shows, which, you know, that's where I used to get them. I can't say I do that anymore. Most of it's mainly through auctions. You know, and I can give you some advice on auctions, but you got to know what you're doing when you get into that realm of buying them on the secondary market. All right. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned.